Anyone new to ME Foggy Dog, this is how I raise awareness of ME. I use a soft toy called Foggy to raise awareness of a serious, life-altering disease. I find people engage with Foggy and then they engage with the disease. While the pandemic's ongoing, Foggy can't do his usual globetrotting adventuring, so I've had to think of a plan B. I'm out of breath, sorry, I've also got long COVID, so I've had to think of a plan B. While I've been continuing the advocacy in terms of blogs, newspaper articles, campaigning for ME patients and now also long COVID patients who have post-exertion malaise, whether that turns into ME/CFS or not, post-exertion malaise is the key defining characteristic of ME. So those patients need to be included in my advocacy. So they are, happy to have them. Anyway, so our plan B is to get journalists aware of what ME/CFS is. Because you only have to read newspaper, I'll say 95% of newspaper articles to see that they simply do not know what ME/CFS is. That's not surprising, most doctors don't. Only 10% of GPs in the UK receive any training on ME/CFS. That's why there's a problem with stigma, being told it's all in our head, being told it's psychological, all of which is untrue. So plan B is to create an online resource specifically for journalists. It's got to be low key because I'm one person doing all this work all by myself, and I also run Stripy Lightbulb CIC. Again, on my own. I've got a board of directors, but I do the day-to-day work, and I've got ME myself. But I will be creating an online resource for journalists. It's going to be a closed group, and you can go there for official and trusted resources on my disease. Because I've said this before and I'm going to say it again. The Science Media Centre is heavily influenced by psychologists. Psychologists keep pushing the narrative that ME is psychological, that it can be treated with graded exercise therapy and cognitive behavioural therapy. Both of those notions have been debunked by the NICE guidance review. We're waiting for the NICE guidance review to be finalised in, I think it's March or April. But in the meantime, we need you to understand that when you include in newspaper articles that ME is possibly psychological, there is doubt over whether ME/CFS is a physical illness, or, as I shared last week, that ME/CFS patients have been abused as children. And ME/CFS comes as a result of that psychological trauma. Incorrect. There is no scientific research to back up that claim. So this closed group specifically for journalists will include why there's the confusion around our name, because so many journalists get that wrong. Chronic fatigue is not chronic fatigue syndrome. Chronic fatigue syndrome is not completely ME. Chronic fatigue syndrome is a cluster of symptoms. ME is a clearly defined illness. So you need to understand that, because so many journalists get that wrong. But if you're getting your information from the Science Media Centre, who push the chronic fatigue syndrome narrative because you can say all these symptoms are triggered by a psychological event, that's why you don't know the difference. There'll be the latest research in there. So when you get told, oh, there's this breakthrough development with ME/CFS, write an article. You can find all the background information that you need for that article on my information resource. It's a work in progress. I'm steadily building it. I've got a few ME patients sending me material, so that's amazing. Thank you very much. I won't bombard you with science, but you need to know the basics, because at the moment, the second any of you publish an article, there is widespread, why have they got it wrong again? Once you know it, it will be easy, but you need to know the basics. You need to know the controversial issues around the name. ME existed decades before chronic fatigue syndrome. Chronic fatigue syndrome was coined in the UK by psychologists. You need to know that. And while everyone keeps pushing the psychological narrative, patients are neglected, stigmatised, and not getting appropriate treatment. That's why we need things to change. Apologies for the wet hair. anyone that's watched me before will know that having a shower takes an awful lot of energy, and that means I don't have the energy to dry it. So Foggy and I say thank you very much for listening. Keep your eyes peeled for the closed information resource specifically for journalists. If any journalists are watching this and can help me spread the word, I'll be very grateful. Like I say, I will only use trusted and reliable resources. I won't share anything that hasn't been proven. Thank you very much for listening. Have a good day.